You walk down the crowded aisle, look at the glowing walls of aquariums and wonder, what are the best and worst fish PetSmart and Petco sells? If you search this online, you will find endless lists telling you to avoid certain fish because they get too massive, or complaining about how the retail stores have terrible genetics. We are going to skip all of that today, because the truth is, the fish you buy usually don't die because they are inherently bad fish. They die because of a complete failure in system translation. We aren't here to bash these big chain stores. Think about what they have to do. They process thousands of live animals a week. To keep that massive inventory alive, they have to run their tanks in a very specific, highly engineered way. Behind those small individual display cubes is usually a massive 1,000-gallon centralized filtration system. It runs with extreme water turnover, heavy aeration, and industrial-sized ultraviolet sterilizers. It is not a natural aquarium. It is an absolute biological fortress designed for temporary survival. But your tank at home? That is a quiet, isolated, developing ecosystem. When you buy a fish, you are taking an organism out of a highly guarded fortress and dropping it into a completely different operating system. And understanding how a fish handles that transition is the only way to know if it belongs on the worst list or the best list. Let's start with the 4 system crashers, the worst translators you can buy. Number 4 is the common Pleco. This is the ultimate biological bomb. Yes, everyone tells you they grow to be 2 feet long, but their size is a problem for next year. The real reason they fail beginners is their immediate bioload. When you take a juvenile Pleco from a 1,000-gallon diluted store system and drop it into a 10-gallon home aquarium, its waste output instantly overpowers your young bacterial colony. A home tank relies on a delicate balance of slow-growing, nitrifying bacteria. The store's massive sump has millions of square inches of mature biomedia to process waste. Your new sponge filter has almost none. It doesn't just struggle. The Pleco creates an ammonia spike that burns its own gills and takes your entire biological filter down with it. Worst number 3, fancy goldfish. If the Pleco overwhelms your bacteria, number 3 confuses your entire setup. The fancy goldfish. This brings up a heartbreaking comment I read on the channel recently. Someone wrote, "The store employee told me a small goldfish and a tropical Tetra would be a perfect pair for my new 10-gallon tank. Now they are both suffering." Listen, retail employees are doing their best with the training they get, but they are used to seeing mixed fish in massive holding tanks where temperature and waste are brute forced by machines. Biology cannot be brute forced at home. Goldfish are cold water fish with heavy digestive tracts. They produce massive amounts of waste and require highly oxygenated, cooler water. Tropical tetras need heated water, and warmer water naturally holds less dissolved oxygen. If you heat the tank for the tetra, you suffocate the goldfish. If you cool the tank, the tetra's metabolism crashes. The systems violently clash. Then you have number 2, the Otocinclus catfish. This is the starving transition. Another comment I see constantly is, "I tested my water, the parameters are completely perfect, but my Oto died in 48 hours. What did I do wrong?" You didn't do anything wrong to the water, but you missed the system difference. Store tanks are highly sterile. They are wiped down constantly and have zero natural biofilm. That fish was likely already starving in the retail waiting room. When you put it into a brand new, spotless home tank, it simply crosses the starvation line. Your water was fine, but your glass was too clean. The system failed to translate its diet. Which brings us to number 1, the neon Tetra. the ultimate Trojan horse. Another viewer wrote, I bought a school of the best beginner fish, but they brought ich and wiped out my entire community tank. Here is the biological secret nobody tells you. Those massive ultraviolet sterilizers in the centralized store system actually suppress parasites. The fish looks perfectly healthy in the store because the technology is artificially protecting its exhausted immune system. But the stress of being netted, bagged, and dumped into your tank drops their immune response, their slime coat thins out. The second you move it to your quiet, unsterilized home tank, the parasite wakes up and chaos follows. By the way, if you are currently staring at a tank full of white dots and panicking, pause this video right now. We have a dedicated, step-by-step guide called White Spots on Fish, linked in the description. Go watch that, fix your tank, and then come back to this. The waiting room. This is where the logic of fish keeping gets really interesting. When you stood in that aisle, looking at the glowing display tanks, did you assume an active fish meant it was ready for your tank? Or was it just surviving the sterile waiting room long enough for you to take it home? Once you realize that a pet store tank is just a waiting room, you stop buying fish based on how they look, and you start buying them based on how they adapt. So what should you buy? You need the translators, the 4 fish that bridge the gap perfectly. Best number 4, Tiger Barb. But this is a conditional translator. In a crowded store tank, a tiger barb's natural aggression is spread out among 50 other fish. It looks like a peaceful schooling fish. But if you buy just 3 of them and put them in a quiet home tank, that exact same aggression is suddenly concentrated on one poor, slow-moving tank mate. However, if you understand the system and you buy a proper group of 10 or more, you simulate the store's diffusion of aggression. They relax, they establish their own internal hierarchy, and they become one of the hardiest fish you can own. Best number 3, Corydoras. If tiger barbs require numbers to behave, number 3 just requires the right floor, bronze and albino Corydoras. These are the unbothered scavengers. They go from a bare bottom, high-flow retail tank to your planted, textured home substrate without skipping a single beat. They don't panic. They don't hide behind the filter for a week. They hit the sand and immediately start foraging. They are excellent translators because the move to a home aquarium actually feels like a massive biological upgrade to their sensory organs. Best number 2, Harlequin Rasbora. While the Corydoras takes over the bottom, number 2 masters the middle, the Harlequin Rasbora. This fish is the ultimate downshifter. Moving from the chaotic, brightly lit, stressful environment of a retail display into your quiet living room tank usually causes severe osmotic shock for most species. But Harlequin Rasboras actually relax. They don't just survive the transition. Their colors deepen from a pale orange to a rich copper, and they look significantly better a week after you bring them home. They are one of the few fish that immediately recognize they are finally safe. Best number 1, Zebra Danio. But the absolute best fish for system translation is number 1, the Zebra Danio. This fish is biologically unbreakable. The gap between the store's water parameters and your home water can be a massive hurdle, but the Zebra Danio walks right over it. It is metabolically flexible. If your temperature fluctuates a couple of degrees while you figure out your new heater, it adapts. If your young bacterial colony takes an extra week to catch up to the Bioload, it waits it out. It doesn't punish your system for being slightly off, it simply survives until you get it right. It is the perfect beginner fish because it gives you the one thing you need most: time to learn, System translation. I constantly get comments from beginners saying, I must not be cut out for this hobby. Everything I bring home dies and I feel terrible. If you are listening to this right now, hear me clearly. If a fish looked fine in the store but failed quietly in your tank, 2 days later, it wasn't your lack of skill. You just lacked the understanding that you were moving a fragile organism between two completely different operating systems. The store is a fortress. Your tank is an ecosystem. You have to bridge the gap. Buying the right fish means choosing the ones that speak the same language as your tank. And if you want to know exactly how to intercept those hidden diseases from the Trojan horsefish before they destroy your new community, watch our complete quarantine and treatment guide next. It will change the way you bring fish home. Until next time, keep your systems balanced, your transition slow, and your curiosity flowing.